Hello, and thank you for joining us for the City of Asheville's Neighborhood Matching Grant Application webinar. This session has been pre-recorded. If you need assistance after the webinar, you can contact Neighborhood Services. Our contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. We will start with some basic information about the program. The Neighborhood Matching Grants were created in 2021 as a way to engage residents within the City of Asheville to create partnerships and foster relationships in their neighborhoods. This program, which is managed by the Communication and Public Engagement, or CAPE department, is currently launching its second grant cycle. Grants of up to $5,000 are available for neighborhoods that can secure a one-to-one match. We'll go into more detail on that in a bit. The goals of the program are neighborhood reinvestment and revitalization in a manner that involves and supports the residents to self-determine their priorities for how to use the funds. So who is eligible to apply for these funds? First of all, the projects must fall within Asheville city limits. Next, neighborhood residents that are represented by an organization such as a coalition, association, or residential organization are all eligible. If your neighborhood does not fall into one of these categories, our neighborhood services team can help you with the process to register as an association with the city. Not sure if your neighborhood qualifies? Visit the city's website at asheville.nc.gov and navigate to the Neighborhood Services page. There you'll find the Map Asheville tool, where you can search for your neighborhood. You'll also see our contacts for the neighborhood organizations that are registered with the city. Once you've verified your neighborhood's eligibility and completed this webinar, you'll work with members of your community to decide on the project that you'll be applying for. If you need ideas, we'll be sharing those with you in a few moments. You'll want to schedule time to review the program materials and brainstorm ideas in preparation for submitting your application. If you would like to schedule a walkthrough with someone from the city to discuss your vision, Neighborhood Services can help you with that. Once you've submitted your application, there are several important dates that you'll want to keep in mind. The open period for applications is June 20th through July 29th. A panel of city employees from across departments will review applications for approval the week of August 1st. Grant awards will be announced the week of August 15th. Neighborhood project representatives will have 3 weeks to complete and sign their agreements with the city and complete their vendor applications to receive payment between August 22nd and September 16th. Neighborhoods will then have 4 months to implement their projects between September and December. A neighborhood progress report will be submitted to the city between October 16th and December 31st. This report is a chance to showcase the great work that your neighborhood has put into their project. To qualify for the grant, your project must meet the following criteria. It has to be accessible to everyone and provide a shared benefit to the community. It cannot duplicate any existing programs or enhance funding for another project. Your project committee should be as wide-ranging and engage as many residents as possible in the planning, selection, and implementation process. And lastly, your project must comply with city regulations and permits and occur on either public property or property that is owned by a neighborhood organization. You can access the full program guidelines on the Neighborhood Matching Grants webpage under Neighborhood Services. Now that you know the rules, it's time to start thinking about ideas for your project. Maybe your neighborhood organization could use the grant to build capacity. Some examples of this would be contracting for services to conduct community asset mapping, or you could purchase marketing materials to promote a membership drive. These could include signage, posters, rack cards, mailers, and even paid ads on social media. Perhaps you're ready to take the next step in growing your board, and you'd like to hire a consultant to help with strategic planning and visioning. You could even use the funds to set up and register as a member-based nonprofit. Keep in mind that these grants could fund any combination of organizational development tools. Are there people in your neighborhood who might benefit from enhanced programming? You could start an education series on any number of topics, including cultural exchange, health and wellness, programs for seniors, technology training, or programs related to literacy and food security. Neighborhood parks can benefit greatly from aesthetic enhancements that showcase their community's vibrancy and character. Try visiting your local park and asking people what they love about their park and what they'd like to see to make it better. Their ideas might inspire you. Even small improvements to a neighborhood's common spaces can boost the curb appeal of your whole block. Whether it's a row of shrubbery or a new coat of paint, you and your neighbors can install modern enhancements to enjoy for years to come. Maybe your neighbors are passionate about resource conservation and want to bring others on board. Recycling, composting, energy, and waste reduction are all important initiatives that can help your neighborhood address climate change. Creating receptacles for disposal of pet waste and cigarette butts can also help to beautify shared spaces. Community gardens are spaces that can educate as well as enhance neighborhood food security. Perhaps your neighborhood already has a community garden, but you'd like to increase your resiliency by adding a perennial patch or food forest. Our Sustainability Services Department is happy to consult with you on ideas that can enhance your community garden. Neighborhood cleanups are a great way to get to know your community through shared work and a job well done. Plus, everyone gets to enjoy the benefits of cleaner streets, sidewalks, lawns, and waterways, including the local wildlife. Does your neighborhood have issues with bears or other dumpster diving critters? Consider installing bear-proof trash receptacles or creating an awareness campaign to help educate newcomers on how to safely dispose of their household trash. Signs are one of the ways that neighborhoods can set themselves apart and build their identity. Keep in mind that custom sign toppers are generally easier to pass through permitting than large entry signs that may require special permission from landowners. Maybe your neighborhood would like to establish its online presence with a new or refreshed website. Or you'd like to create a logo that can be printed on t-shirts, flags, coffee mugs, or whatever else you can dream up. The possibilities are truly endless if your goal is to establish a brand or identity online for your neighborhood. Safety and security enhancements could include creation of a neighborhood watch group, signage, or even adding security cameras and fencing to high traffic areas. This includes signage for traffic calming and pedestrian safety. Public art enhances a neighborhood's beauty and character. Whether through colorful plantings or decorative paintings, think about how you can bring out the best in your neighborhood and make a statement. Celebrations are a great way to build community. Whether your neighborhood is into a weekend block party, hosting a 5K, or is looking to start a new arts festival, you could apply neighborhood matching grant funds to kickstart a new annual tradition. This next slide lists some examples of ineligible expenses. Be aware that although they are not reimbursable through the grant, you could include these as part of your matching funds or in-kind donations. Let's look at the requirements for the one-to-one match for this grant. The match can come from a variety of sources, including cash contributions, in-kind donations of services or supplies, and volunteer hours. Keep in mind that at least 50% of the total match must be in the form of volunteer hours, which are completed after your grant was approved. The number of hours will be multiplied times the national volunteer hourly rate, which is currently valued at $29.95. So for example, the value of 10 volunteer hours would equal $299.50 towards your matching funds. We will supply you with a volunteer timekeeping sheet for tracking and recording these hours. We also recommend that you ask your neighbors to pledge their volunteer support during the planning phase. Here are some examples of volunteer activities that count as time towards that 50% post-award contribution. When it comes to volunteer hours, the good news is that you can get really creative. Once you have selected your project, it's time to complete the application. Visit the Neighborhood Services page on the city's website to fill out the online form. You will need to include the following information for your application to be considered: the contact information for your application, as well as your neighborhood organization info, a description of your project and who is coordinating it, and an estimated budget, including expenses and matching funds. Once your project is approved, we will supply you with a budget worksheet to help track the expenses for your project. If you have any questions or need support, our finance team will be happy to help. Tracking your volunteer hours is super important to secure the matching funds for your project. Be sure to keep records for volunteer service before the project begins as well. These will go towards your overall match, but remember that they will not count towards your 50% goal of volunteer hours. Those are only counted from hours worked during the project implementation period. Many neighborhoods have had success using Facebook groups and Nextdoor for gathering their volunteer pledges. You'll notice that your budget worksheet has two tabs, one for expenses, the other for volunteer hours and calculating the volunteer match. If your group prefers not to use digital tools for tracking expenses and hours, that's okay. We can supply you with printed versions of these forms as well. Just ask. Now that you've completed the application, what's next? The application review and grant approval process will take approximately 10 weeks to complete. First, a panel of city staff will review and score the projects against a rubric of requirements and feasibility. Keep in mind that city staff may need to reach out to the applicants to clarify and answer any questions. Once the grant recipients are chosen, the awards will be announced the week of August 15th. Then, the neighborhoods receiving awards will need to complete their vendor registration and sign the agreements for dispersal of funds. Our goal is for neighborhoods to begin implementing their projects by the beginning of September. Keep in mind, though, that projects must be completed within 1 year of the award date. So what are the criteria for scoring the applications? Projects can score a maximum of 100 points based on project need, neighborhood participation and support, neighborhood benefit, project planning, community partnerships, and budget projections. Be sure to address each of these criteria in your application to increase the likelihood of funding your project. Lastly, here are some more tips for completing your application. If your group would like to tackle multiple smaller projects, that's fine. Just keep in mind that you'll need to be able to complete them all within 1 year. When you're drafting up your budgets, be sure to include sales tax in your figures, as well as delivery and installation costs. For goods and services, please shop around and get at least 2 quotes and keep records of those estimates. You will want to clear your project with property owners and have their permission in writing if applicable. Your group may only begin the grant activities once the agreements are signed. And don't forget about in-kind donations of time from community partners. We know that this has been a lot of information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our neighborhood services team at neighborhoods@asheville.nc.gov or call us at 828-712-4229. We will be happy to help.